They are.
As we transition over to the men, Wes Miller and what he did there in his first season. For a team, for the Bearcats, they started 5-0 with wins over Georgia and beating 14th ranked Illinois to start the year, but end up losing 7 of their last 8 games. Mark, what was the difference that you saw from them from the beginning of the season to the end?
So I called those wins in the Hall of Fame Classic early in the season, and the real difference was that this team came out with a very, very strong belief. Wes Miller has a way of helping you to believe in yourself. He's a tremendous teacher, but then through a combination of injuries, some adversity here and there, some illness here and there, they weren't able to finish what they started. But now they got a lot of guards back. This team is rich in guards right now. And a couple transfers from Old Dominion on the inside, along with a big Russian kid that can really play in Victor Locken. I saw them practice on Sunday. I am bullish on the Cincinnati Bearcats.
They've got a tough non-conference schedule. So when you look at the leadership, the players, the 4 starters that they bring back, you know, how are they really going to be looking to lead them through really a tough slate here from out of the gate?
You know, David DeJulius has been through the wars. The Michigan transfer came to Cincinnati. He's really overcome a lot of adversity in his life, went through some mental health stress issues during one season and got help. And I admire the young man. I consider him a friend. We connect on many different levels. And because of that background of David DeJulius, I just love the leadership of this team. And again, Wes Miller is a really interesting guy, a tremendous teacher, attention to detail, positive with his players. Mm-hmm. I love the culture at Cincinnati.
That's Roy Williams. You know, that's
yeah,
Roy Williams
exactly.
effect. And to think about a coach who started off as a walk-on, you know,
yep.
That has the edge. That has, I'm going to not only play, I'm going to get starting time and eventually become a head coach. I think it says a lot. I mean, positivity, especially in today's culture, we have to have it. The coaches who, you know, used to kind of grind and break down players, I don't know that that's the way anymore. Maybe some players it works for, most it doesn't. I also like Landers Nolly on the team. He's a Memphis transfer, a 4 with handles. I think he's going to be an impact player.
Definitely. I mean, so many interconference transfers here this season, but that one really an X factor, I think, for these Bearcats this season. And let's now welcome in the head coach, Wes Miller. Coach, in your second season here at Cincinnati, I loved one of the things that you did here this offseason as you were getting the team going on picture day. You didn't just take your normal picture in the uniforms, but you also had your players in suits. Suits have gone away on the college basketball sidelines, but why was that something important for you to do with your players?
Yeah, we've been doing not just the pictures, but for years, you know, when the NCAA allows that within the rules for us to purchase guys a suit. So we've been purchasing guys a suit for years when they join our program. And, you know, I don't enjoy putting on a suit any more than the next guy, but I think it's important to teach young people things outside of basketball. And one thing we want to teach them is kind of how to be comfortable in different environments that they're going to be in after they leave our program and leave our university. And so that's kind of why we do it. And then we have some fun with it in terms of taking pictures and doing some stuff on media day. And also it allows fans to see our guys in a different light. They don't see them in just a uniform. And there's a lot more to our players than just who they are inside of those 94 feet. So there's a lot of really good stuff that goes around those types of things, but it was fun too.
Coach, we're going to send things over to Tom Fenstermaker with the American. He has some questions from the media waiting. Tom, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Morgan, and thanks, Coach, for joining us. Our first question will be from Jason Stam of BearcatReports.com.
Hey, Coach, you've got a lot of transfers this year. I had them last year too, but in year 2, how do you feel the cohesion level has been so far within the program, within your guys?
Yeah, you mentioned the transfers that are joining the team now, but with 7 returning guys. And, of those 7 guys, there's a lot of returning minutes played, a lot of returning experience. So the continuity this year relative to last year is completely different, right? I mean, we were all new to each other a year ago. There's a bunch of us in the building here every day that have already worked together for a year. So, it's made it a different experience day to day in the preseason for sure and in the summer. And I think it's helped onboard those guys that have joined the program because there's people here that have already been in the program that have been able to kind of help them with assimilation.
All right, our next question will be from Justin Williams of The Athletic.
Hey, Coach, you full court, 3-quarter court pressure was such a big part of your defense at UNCG. do you feel like you're getting closer to being able to play the way you want to play defensively here at Cincinnati?
Yes, I do, Justin. We just didn't feel like the way the roster was made up last year that it made sense to do some of the things we'd done for the 6-7 years previous, where we were coming from. I think you'll see us implement those things this year early in the season. From a practice standpoint, we've worked on our full court defense, but we kind of build up to that, and we always add our three-quarter court stuff later in the preseason. We hope to implement that in the next couple weeks, and I do think that'll be a part of how we play early on.
All right, our next question will be from Chad Brendel of
Bearcat Journal.
Bearcat Journal, sorry.
Coach, Jeremiah Davenport's a veteran guy. He's a local guy. All the word around the program is about how impressive of an offseason that he's had. Can you take us through maybe what you've seen from him this offseason and how he's grown into a better player?
He has. He's really matured, Chad. His effort in practice every day last year in games, it's always been exemplary, right? I mean, he's always played hard. He's always played with passion. That's who he is. But his commitment outside of those moments has really improved and really matured, and you can see it with his body. And all of our guys improve with Mike Rayfield. I say it all the time. We have the best strength coach in college basketball. It's a fact. And maybe I'm biased, but I don't think I have to be on this one. He's that good. So all of our guys' bodies improve just by working with Mike every day. But Jeremiah is improved in the times that he's not required to be here. And you can just kind of tell his focus is different. His approach is different. And it's impacted his game when he is in practice, given that same effort that he was given last year.
All right, our next question will be from John Tiedel of Hoops HD.
Good morning, Coach. I know it's not the next. Sorry about that. I know it's not the next game on your schedule, but how excited are you to go to Maui in November, and how do you prepare the team for an 11:30 p.m. Ohio time game in Hawaii?
Yeah, we're really excited about Maui. You're right. We won't think ahead as a team. We'll think about what's in front of us today first. But listen, it's the premier tournament or preseason tournament in all of college basketball. I'm not sure some of our players even understand it because it hasn't happened for the last couple of years. We had the pandemic, and so they've played the Maui Invitational, but they played it in Nashville or they played it in Las Vegas, and it's just not the same when it's not in Maui. So not only are we excited to be a part of it, we're excited that we're a part of it as it kind of goes back to the island. And I was a part of it as a player in 2004 at North Carolina and had an incredible experience and great memories from that. So there's some excitement and anticipation to kind of go back and go through it in a different role now and have our players kind of hopefully get that same type of an experience. The field is incredible, right? I mean, you look at the field, and I can't imagine there's a possible better field for a preseason event in college basketball. So it's going to be a challenge. It's a challenge we're excited about. And I think regardless of what happens when we're there, we'll be a better team and be more prepared for what we have to do in league play after we come back. So it'll be a great opportunity for our program.
All right, and our final Zoom question will be from Tim Daniel of 48 Minutes Network.
Coach, you guys bring in Landers Nolley, obviously a big pickup for your organization. Can you kind of talk about, the importance of bringing him in? Obviously a guy who played in the tournament last year, obviously familiarity within the conference. How big is he for your program as you guys are starting this transition moving forward?
Yeah, I've said this a lot. I think the 7 returning guys, I don't ever want them to get overshadowed because that continuity that we mentioned before. I think it's so important, and we want to celebrate guys that stay in the program, and they'll have a lot to do with our success. That said, the guys we've added in our recruiting and added to this roster really bring something to it, and Landers brings quite a bit. You mentioned experience. I mean, he played in the Maui Invitational his freshman year at Virginia Tech. So he's the one guy that kind of knows what we're walking into there. He's played in the NCAA tournament. He's played deep in the postseason in the NIT and won a championship. So he's got great perspective. he also brings us some scoring punch. And if you looked at our team last year, it was something we wanted to really address. Was we struggled to score the ball, especially in the second half of league play, and he scores it at a really high level. He's a guy that can finish plays with his ability to catch and shoot and his size. He's also a guy that we found can really create plays for others. So I think we'll use him a little differently. Certainly he'll play around others, but he'll also have the ball in his hands in transition. We'll put him in screens on the ball. And I think he'll be a guy that can generate some offense for us and take some pressure off of guys that maybe had to do too much of that for us a year ago.
We'll take one more from Zoom. It'll be from Marshall Kramsky.
Hey, Coach, you touched upon it a little bit earlier about the continuity coming into year two. However, specifically, what have you learned from year one that you're implementing right now to get better as the season comes in just a few weeks?
Yeah, there's not like one answer to that question. We're just so much further along today than we were on this day last year, just because there's familiarity, right? There's an understanding of some of our foundational values and the things that we do every single day. So the guys that are returning can bring the new guys along, and I think as a coaching staff and as a team, when we're out on the floor, we're working on some of those details that really impact winning, that maybe it wasn't that we didn't want to get to those things at this point last year. We just weren't able to because everybody was so new, and we're kind of still in those baby steps. So, there's not a great answer. There's just a lot of things that we're doing in terms of details, in terms of things that I really think matter when you start playing games, whether it's situational things, whether it's execution of certain action, understanding of roles. There's a lot of stuff that's just a lot further along, and I just think it's because year one, you're trying to put it together really quickly, and it's not just new for me as a coach, it's new for every single person in that locker room, and that's been really different to this stage at least.
Hi, Wes. Mark Adams in the studio. Great to see you. Thanks for access to your practice the other day, and I snuck around, and I was looking at your culture, and you have two different posters there to talk about we, that culture of we. Why is that at the roots of your coaching philosophy?
Yeah, well, Mark, good to see you, and thanks for stopping by. Appreciate the effort. I know you get out and try to see a lot of people, so I've always appreciated your effort to actually take that inside look to see how we're approaching it. Now, it is about team first. That sounds cliche, but yet you have to have a certain level of talent. You know that. But the teams that separate in college basketball, they sacrifice for each other, and they sacrifice for the name on the front of the jersey. And for us every day, it is going to be about development and growth every single day. We're not going to get consumed with things we can't control that are going to happen tomorrow. We're not going to get consumed with things that happened yesterday that are over. We're going to obsess about today, and we're going to obsess about sacrificing for the team first. So it is always about we, not me, and that stuff sounds cliche, but we try to bring that to life in how we approach it every single day.
Hey, Coach Miller, Brooke Weisbrod here in the studio. That's just such an awesome mantra for the guys to buy into. And looking at this year's team and looking at the potential of the defense and how strong it is, it just seems to just elude these 90s Cincinnati defense vibes. And I'm just wondering if you have maybe a couple of players that you really like from that era, or have you shown any of the film of the 90s Cincinnati defense to the guys?
It's good timing, Brooke, on the question. We had the 92 and 93 teams back this past weekend for a reunion. And so the 92 Final Four team and the 93 Elite Eight team. So it was great. And Coach Huggins was so great just to come back. And I know how hard it is to get away this time of year from your team because we're practicing. But to have those guys back, we actually had videos and highlights at their reunion Friday night. And our players were there and got to watch, and they got to listen and see how those guys interacted. One thing I said when I talked to that group, because I was and I wasn't trying to date them, but I was a youngster in those days. I do remember it well, but I was really young. That group made playing hard really cool. That's what I remember watching Cincinnati in the 90s and watching Coach Huggins teams. they made playing hard a cool thing. And we're certainly going to play really hard, and we got to make sure that scene is cool again, because it is, because it wins. And so, yeah, we're very well aware of the tradition here. We've embraced it.
We lost the feed there from Coach Miller, but Brooke, Mark, so cool to hear how Coach Miller's embracing the history of that program. Brooke, being from Cincinnati yourself, where were you in the 90s watching those Final Fours?
Well, we might have snuck a little small portable TV into a wedding and watched it in the back, and just we're trying not to cheer and make noise. But, yeah, that was great era. Nick Van Exel, Melvin Levitt, all those guys. What memories?
Cincinnati has such a great, rich basketball tradition, starting back with Oscar Robertson back in the late 1950s, in the early 1960s with Jim Bolden, Carl Bolden and those guys that went on to win the national championship at Cincinnati. I got a chance to meet former assistant coach Tay Baker, who's 95 years old now, over the summer. And we went through the entire history of Cincinnati basketball together. And what a thrill it was for me as a Cincinnati kid growing up, watching the black and white TV, by the way, that's how old I am, and watching the Cincinnati Bearcats win 2 consecutive national titles over the Ohio State University. The Bearcats were the best team in the nation during that era.
To hear from a coach who, he was part of a national championship, winning one with North Carolina in 2005, but to bring these teams back, to expose these players to the history there of the Bearcats program. These guys weren't alive during those days, but what can that really do, Brooke? I'll start with you for a team and for these players to learn about that.
It connects generations. And on the women's side, we talk about connecting the WNBA to the NCAA to the high school level, and men's college basketball in a program like this. You have such a great history and rich vintageness, if that's even a word, right, in Cincinnati defense and basketball. That would get me hyped. If I met the 92 team, that made the Final Four, and then I'm seeing these videos and just seeing how these guys related to each other. I know it sounds really simple, but we're at an age where, we're so used to communicating in text and all those things now. We have to do things in person again. We got to restart and go back to the basics. And that's what Wes Miller does, and that's why I like him.
It also sets the expectation. Look what Kelvin Sampson, how he's leveraged Elvin Hayes in the 1968-69 teams under Guy V. Lewis, and how that has now transitioned into the great success at Houston. Look, Wes Miller is one of the most talented young head coaches in the country. I covered him when he was at UNC Greensboro, and Roy Williams came to play him in Greensboro. That's the level of respect that Roy Williams has for his young protege. Roy Williams comes to Cincinnati to watch Wes Miller's teams play. I mean, this is a relationship of an expectation from North Carolina that has now transitioned to the expectation of the Cincinnati great teams of the 90s of Bob Huggins. It's a great story. And as we connect those dots, Brooke, it's really exciting to watch Wes Miller embrace it and bring it to his players. And now we'll see if they can execute it.
Mark, if you could sum up the Cincinnati defense in one word, what would it be?
Nasty. Nasty. Pothole, dirty, pothole, nasty defense. It's like driving down I-75 in March when the pothole is 5 feet deep and you blow out your tire. That's the Cincinnati defense.
We can't relate to that much here in Dallas, Texas. I can tell you that. But I have seen that from Coach Miller and his players. And one of the things that he talked about at his media day there in Cincinnati, the local media, was that he was that was what they were working on the most right now, was coaching that defense. So how can we expect them to now take this next step here in year 2 under Coach Miller?
Well, John Newman III is going to be our next guest. And I love him because it's defense first for John Newman. If you look at his eyes, he has the defensive assassin eyes. When he comes at you and closes out, he intimidates me, and I'm just in the broadcast booth. I mean, Cincinnati is used to guys diving on the floor for loose balls, going in the stands. I mean, Cincinnati has a long history of tough guys, like Ron Bonham, for example, going back to those 1960s teams. Corey Blunt, another tough guy. A lot of tough guys in that program. And John Newman III is one of those tough guys that can really guard you, really rangy.
Well, John Newman III is actually ready and listening to us, Mark. So I'm curious, John, to hear what you thought about Mark's comments there about you. Do you agree?
Hey, I'm a tough guy. I take it. I appreciate that. I take it every time.
Well, John, we have some questions from the media, and we have Tom Fenstermaker here with The American who's going to field some of those questions. So I'm going to go ahead and send things over to Tom.
Thanks, Morgan. Our first question will be from John Tiedel of Hoops HT.
Good morning, John. I know you have a couple new transfers on the roster this year. I was wondering how they're fitting in with everybody and which one of them has impressed you the most so far.
The transfers are fitting in great. Like Coach West said earlier, like everyone's pretty much older. We got Kalu, Rob, Landers. I think that's pretty much, is that all we had? Yeah, so they're pretty much all older guys with a lot of experience and guys that I was kind of already familiar with. So it's kind of been fun and good to get those guys acclimated, and just the fact that they have a lot of years under their belt, it makes it easier for the transition, because since I've already been here 1 year under Coach West, and a bunch of the returning guys, we've already had a year under our belts. So just kind of taking them under our wing in a sense, it's been pretty easy, been smooth. Everyone's been receptive to everything, so it's been a good transition. But as far as who's impressed me the most, I can't really name one guy. Every guy that's transferred in has brought something to the table that I've been impressed with. Like I know a lot of guys. People say Rob. He's one of the best defenders at the guard position that I played with since I've been in college. Landers, we call him Ches. Playmaking, he can make plays. I always knew he could shoot it, but just being in practice every day, seeing the way that he creates for others, and just seeing how his IQ of the game is something I didn't know, so that surprised me. And then Kalu is just a beast. He's just a beast. He's physically imposing. He's got good game. He can play on the perimeter a little bit. So I think every guy has brought something to the table that I've been impressed with, and I'm excited to get it rolling here.
Our next question will be from Justin Williams of The Athletic.
What's up, John? We talked about you have a defensive reputation. Coach Miller has a defensive reputation. Are there any changes or kind of developments maybe from last season to this season on the defensive side that you guys are doing different?
Yeah, we're adding a little different, a little more full court press, 3/4 court press. I think last year we were trying to figure so much out that he kind of left that out, and we needed to focus on the basics and building a foundation of our defense. But I'd just say throwing different looks at people has been the main thing. We don't play any different. We still want to be aggressive. We still want to push the ball out, make everything tough defensively. So as far as that goes, everything's the same. But we have added a few little full court things that they would do at his previous school. So we're trying to implement that now and go from there.
Our next question will be from Tim Daniel of 48 Minutes Network.
Hey, John. So last year, your first year at Cincinnati was your best three-point shooting season of your career. Can you tell us, kind of take us through kind of the progress you've made as far as working on that and adding that to your game, so you can continue to help the team on the offensive side?
Yeah, it was my best three-point shooting percentage, but I feel like I can still shoot it better. I'm just continuing to work at it every single day. I think that's just the main thing about it. You just got to continue to put the work in and focus on it every day and make little minor tweaks. And then the more you work, the more confidence you get. So I've been working at that consistently. And just, the more I continue to work, the more I'll be able to help offensively. And not just from the three, just, in the playmaking, creating for myself, creating for others, playing in transition. I need to try to finish more. So it's a lot of things other than the three that I'm adding to our offense this year. But that it was last year my best year, and I got a fifth year, so I got a chance to make it right even more. So looking forward to it.
And our last question will be from Jason Stam of Bearcat Report.
John, for those of us outside the program, it seems like there's a lot of momentum, a lot of good things going on in the program. Recruiting wise, you guys had the 92, 93 team back that, Coach Miller said y'all got to be around and hang out with. But for obviously you being in the program, what's the vibe like right now? Like, what is it like being a part of Cincinnati basketball right now?
It's awesome. It's been awesome to me since I got here, to be honest. It was awesome having the guys, the 92, 93 teams back, just to be around those guys and really have them we're already motivated in our own ways, but just to see those guys here and show us that love, it means the world to us, to be honest. And it's always been a family feel, but just having those guys back, and you kind of get a sense of, you see someone that did it, So it kind of shows you that you can do it, and they came from the same thing, and they made it to the Final Fours and Elite Eights, but they want even more for us. So I feel like we owe that to them. It was awesome seeing those guys come back and Coach Huggins and everything that they did for our program. So we just want to continue to build on that, and hopefully just continue to be better.
John, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really looking forward to seeing here what these Bearcats can do this season.
Absolutely.